Hello there. Let's start this whole episode over again. Yes, I just did a whole recording of this. I started on my laptop, and halfway through the recording, I decided to misinterpret a message that came up on the computer. It was talking about updates. I thought it had said that the recording app had stopped. It said, do you want to continue? I hit, without completely understanding what was going on, I hit yes. And what it did was, it was actually a notice for update your software. Configure Windows 2, And would this be a good time? And I hit yes right in the middle of the show. Well, that's not unusual. I've done that before. I used to get really kind of hung up over that. I did. And then I said, wait a second, who doesn't need practice? And actually I did another second half, and I wasn't really happy with the quality of the sound quality, so I decided to go on and record a whole new one. Why not? And since it's apropos, this episode is called Variety's Spice of Life. I was just trying to change things up, just to make things interesting, so I can get a little out of the doldrums. I am currently, it's Monday. I had yesterday off. I'm trying to switch my podcast from the current app that it has, that's being used, to a new one. I'm going from Spreaker to Anchor, because Anchor is associated with Spotify. And I figure, how long am I going to keep on doing this with Spreaker? Back and forth. Spreaker was the platform I used to record my show. And it's not necessarily the one that's going to help. Let me make sure everything is good to go here. I think my sound quality is a little off, because it only picks up when I think I have to be making a little bit of noise for it to keep on. With the powered mic, it has to keep on recording. And so it cuts out, you'll hear stops and starts, you'll hear boom. So I'm making the transition from one platform to another. There's 765 episodes on one, and there's another 35 episodes on another. So it's about 800 episodes, and I have to import them all. And it sounds like, wow, that's really hard. No, it's actually, you just put your RSS feed from one platform and put it into the other, and it's supposed to transfer all of them over, but not all of this. I get like a little less than 100 episodes transferred over out of a total of 765 for the Keys Bartender show. And there's the other one called Keys Bartender Spillage. So, yeah, I don't want to lose all that beautiful art. Yeah, I know it's not all art. But it's my art, it's my show, so I wanted to have access to it, and it's important for me to shift it over to the platform so I have access to it. And they say, well, people are thinking, why are you changing over? I said, well, because you pay for this, the privilege of recording and the service with these podcasting apps, and they have all these features on this particular one, Spreaker, and I haven't been using all of them. But I've been paying for a premium service, and I have not been providing a premium podcast. Maybe I just have to get my sound quality back to, just a zero. I mean, people have sound effects and stuff like that. I have a couple things. I have Tina. I have the podcast. Here's Tina. I don't know if you hear it.
You're an asshole!
There. I have my podcast theme, that one. Like, you need gunshots, camera, people, Tina. I don't even, how many times do I use that? It's not a morning show. But I wanted to change things up. I said, you know what? Since most of the episodes are only going to be like 30 minutes, why the hell should I bother with paying for something where I can record up to, I think I can record up to 3 hours. God, I get 3 hours. and I only use 1/3 of the storage that I have. Eventually, if I kept on recording it on this app, if I do it another 5-6 years at this pace, I might have to up one of my plans. Why keep I saying it? I had to upgrade the plan so I'd get more storage. Like I really need to keep some of those old shows. You heard it. The one where my co-host walked off because I insinuated, that the place he came from was full of pedophiles, which was indiscreet. I understand. I was drinking at the time, but you were just talking about where we're from, and I said I was from Philadelphia, and someone said, I think my co-host said, well, I spent some time in Newtown Square, and I go, pedophiles, and he just got up and left. And though it was funny at the time, I wish I could have called it back, but like anything, interactions with people is variety. You never know what's going to happen from what you say when you're talking to different people. And that is the subject of this show, variety. I don't think you'd go to a restaurant that just served one kind of food. Let's say it's grilled cheese sandwiches. It's always made with, you could probably make a lot of different variety with grilled cheese sandwich. You can use a cheese substitute. You can use Swiss cheese. You can use provolone. You can use Gorgonzola. You can use Gouda. Use Limburger, whatever cheese. And you can grill it. You can put mayo on it. You can do all these things. But let's say there's only one cheese. White American cheese. And you can either get the bread toasted or untoasted, mayo or without mayo. Well, quickly they'd find out how many people really like cheese sandwiches. Now, if you were in Grand Central Station and you had a tiny booth and you just said just cheese sandwiches, and that's all you had, and you had like 2 people in you, not in you, but with you, and you're just cranking out those cheese sandwiches. So here, that's it. People go, I want to get that on rye. No rye toast, only white bread. Oh, do you have anything gluten-free bread? No. Sorry. But that's the reason why our cheese sandwiches are only $2. And grilled cheese, $2.50. And people say, well, that's a pretty good deal, for New York pricing. Any place else you maybe do like $1 and $1.50. But you got to do the premium. And you just crank out those sandwiches. And you have stacks and stacks of loaves of bread. Right? You'd probably be able to do that. But if you had some place that has not an access to a great variety of people, then you had to provide a variety of selections. Yeah, it's just like those stores and says, think of all the stores out there that just did it. Think of Radio Shack. Do you recall Radio Shack, listeners? Radio Shack was a place originally. It was supply for the hobbyist, for people that worked in electronics years ago. There were a lot of hobbyists that worked in electronics. They built their own radios, their two-way radios, ham radios, televisions. My grandfather assembled a television from a kit. Yes. He assembled a television from a kit. They bring the tube, and they got all the little, and televisions didn't have circuit boards and stuff like that back then. They had tubes, vacuum tubes. So you had that, and you assemble that all together, and then you make a television. Yeah, that was a thing. I myself made a crystal radio when I was in, right before I went to high school. There was a kit, you make a crystal radio. Crystal radio was a hand, you make the radio by soldering diodes and transistors together, and the crystal was the power for the radio. The crystal, it was a low power crystal, and you'd be able to get a signal. So Radio Shack would have all these different parts, and they had this section, and it was a big, 8-foot by 4-foot cabinet with these small drawers. And in each of the drawers, they had different things. They had transistors, resistors, all the crap. insulators, clips, all the possible things that would go into an electronic piece. And eventually, we got the parts changed, because when it got off the transistor, it went to the chips. So Radio Shack switched, started adding cell phones, toys, walkie-talkies, all these things, and you have it. And that's Radio Shack used to be that. And there was a variety of things. Obviously, it wasn't enough variety, because what there isn't right now is a Radio Shack. Because there's very few hobbyists building their own smartphones anymore. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can build your own smartphone. Would I endeavor to build my own smartphone? No. I mean, you can build your own radio. You can build your own computer. You get a motherboard and all that stuff. People are always doing things. There's people that build their own hard drives. I have a friend, the former co-host that I mentioned, that walked off the show that time. But he came back, and eventually we parted ways, just to change things up, I guess. That's... Who knows? I know. I should know, because it's my show, right? So, as I was talking about I lost track of my thought. I was talking about building things, how you do it. It was, he had a computer. At the time, it was, Christ, when I first ran into the guy about 12, 13 years ago, he had 1 terabyte of storage, which was a lot at that time. Was a lot. Now you have, which is 1,000 gigs. And now you have 100 terabytes. I'm sure there's 1,000 terabytes. And these are enormous. These things are enormous. But he built his own. With these CPUs, you got to put fans in, because keep the electronics cool. And he says his was always running. I don't know why, but it was always running. Never really shut it down. But yeah, the nice thing about it was always changing. It's always changing. Now you buy these things and all is set. But what I wanted to talk about was variety, changing things up. Sometimes in life, we can interpret boredom and conventionalism as depression. Because you always have, when you do things the same way, you eat the same breakfast, I know there's several movies like that. Every day this person gets up and does the same thing. They catch the same bus. They drink the same coffee while they're waiting for the bus. They read the same paper. The news in the paper's a little different. But they're always reading the sports section, let's say. And they go in, they see the same people when they walk into work. Walk through the door to say the same thing. How you doing, Bert? Pretty good, Al. And a lot of times the work becomes kind of mundane and everyday. That's the reason why I kind of really enjoy bartending, because you never know what exactly is going to happen. There's regulars that come in. I enjoy the stability of having regulars, but I also enjoy this, the change of pace of having strangers come in. People you never met before. Offering something, saying something different. I enjoy not being conventional, because it always gives me a chance to be something different. That's what I really enjoyed about moving down here to the Keys. When I lived in Philadelphia, I had all these history with different groups of people. Some of it's good, some of it was bad. And when I came down and moved here, I only had one friend. He could tell people what I'm like, but only, I was the ultimate arbiter of what impression am I going to make about myself. One impression. And I decided that I wanted to make, eventually, and after a couple of months of being down here, I got sober. And then I was sober for a while and went out and drank and got sober again. But my lifestyle down here is sober. I decided that. But inside of that, everything else is kind of all over the place. Yeah, I've been a bartender since I've been down here, but I also had a delivery company and a baby furniture rental company, Keys Baby Rentals. Remember, we don't rent babies. Well, I rented baby furniture to people that would visit down here. They would want, cribs, pack and plays, and things like that, so they wouldn't have to pack them on the planes. And pay the extra service charge and things like that. Well, obviously a crib. No one traveled with a crib. I guess you could. Be kind of expensive and a pain in the ass. So I would just deliver it to their property where they're going to. And that was one of the things. And then after that, what did I do? I became a notary. Then I became a loan signing agent. I decided to do wedding officiating, which all notary can do, all those things, and set up a little company there. Before I started a podcast 5 years ago. It was primarily comedy, I thought it was going to be. And now it's more of a personal journal with comedy thrown into it. I wouldn't classify it as comedy because I don't know how many of you are actually laughing. Laughing with me, not at me, I hope. Well, those things, someone may look out on the outside and say, this guy cannot make a decision. Well, I stuck with a lot of those things. I've been doing a podcast for 5 years. I'm in my 6th year. If April 4th of 2017, that was my, the 2020, April 4th of 2022 was my 5th anniversary. So I'm in my 6th year. And this is the 619th episode. There's actually 765 episodes on that. But that's a lot of short ones and things like that where I go and just post audio journals of things that was going on. Some of it's rather mundane and boring, and some I think are different. Like during COVID, when I interviewed the mayor of Key West about the COVID restrictions and things like that, and about the closure of Overseas Highway. And then I had a reporter come on. I had several people. I did a lot of interviews. I started changing it up. I interviewed a dominatrix, a Scottish woman I got in contact with. And we didn't, and people probably thought, well, Jim's going to be talking about what's the strangest thing you had to shove up someone's ass. And that wasn't where I was going. Because anybody can do that. You can watch someone shove something up someone's ass. Why would you want to hear an interview of someone talking about shoving something up someone's ass? I wanted to find out what kind of people they were. And what the rules of the road were when you're talking to them. What are you saying? That's my variety. When I do my indoor cycling class, I used to have these preset playlists. And I would, I built these playlists on one of the music apps. You could just put these music in order, right? And it would play out. And you do all these different exercises where it's indoor cycling, but some is climbing, some is sprint, some is jumps, some is tempo changing where you up the speed, lower the speed, increase the resistance, lower the resistance, all those things. But I knew after a while, I had like 40 playlists, and I use about 5 different playlists all the time because I like the music. And I was getting bored, and I was like, oh man, I was like 4 or 5 years ago, I was getting kind of jaded with it. So what I did is I got rid of all the playlists. I started rebuilding it. And now during the class, I pick the music while I'm doing the class. While I'm playing one song, I go into the next. I say, well, this one's going to go. I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to pick it from this list of songs. Because this is what kind of exercise I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it, boom, there. And I do it on the fly. And I don't do it to impress people and say, hey, listen, every class is different for him. It's not, I don't do it to impress people. I do that for the variety. It makes it more exciting for me. I think it should, if I do my job right, make it more exciting for the people. So I don't want anybody, when I start a class, to think this is what we're going to do. These are the first 3 exercises we're going to do. We're going to play a slow one, a fast one, a slow one, a fast one, a climb, a jump, and this. Tabata sprints. Nope, I don't want that. I want them to come and say, I have no idea what he's going to do. It doesn't really change the thing that you're going to work out, but it changes your expectations. And I hope that's a little different. So when you get world weary, if you're eating a lot of cheese sandwiches, why not spice it up with a hot dog or a hamburger or corned beef, a Reuben, Chinese food, Indian food, Mexican, Peruvian. We had Peruvian food, was it Friday? I had Peruvian food with the wife. We had a little ceviche at a nice restaurant. I think I mentioned that on a previous episode. Will we go back? Maybe. I liked it. I can get used to it. It's different. They put a lot of cilantro in their rice. It's not like white rice you get with Mexican food. It was tasty. It was huge. It was huge. I mean, I do not want to eat a lot of starch when I'm driving because my body starts getting this kind of weird, funky thing when I'm trying to process carbohydrates. So I just want to try to, I was thinking, I said, why do I want to change? Why do I want to change to a different hosting site? Why do I want to do this? Because I don't want anything to ever really remain static. You know, whenever someone is, you think of life as if something's going to get you. You ever hear this thing? It's very hard to hit a moving target. There's a lot to be said for being consistent. But there's things that lend themselves to being really good with being consistent. Like if you make wedding cake, you want consistency in your cake. Light fluffy cake, light icing, very consistent. They want consistently good all the time. Consistent. Chicken noodle soup, always stay same, not too salty, not too much pepper, not too much carrots, not too much potato if you put potato in your chicken noodle soup. So the consistency is a good thing, but sometimes being conventional too often could lead to like boredom. In warfare, being conventional is death or defeat. Being unconventional is a lot of times more beneficial. Goes for almost anything, being unconventional. You may not want to be unconventional when making your coffee because people like coffee the same way. But you might be being unconventional making your desserts or some of your food items if you're a restaurant. You want to be conventional when you're a dry cleaners. You want everything expected. Clothes ironed, hanging on hangers, ready at the time you say it's Tuesday, it's going to be ready on Tuesday. You don't want to be unconventional. But you can be unconventional saying 20% off on Wednesdays. Their traditional slow day for dry cleaning. You say, listen, we're slowing down. Why don't we just make it 20 people to drop off clothes on Wednesday, 20% cheaper for a 24-hour turnaround service. That's somewhat unconventional. You can do the same thing every day, or you can change it up a bit. If you come home and you normally throw your briefcase in the door and grab a beer, maybe one day come home with a bouquet of flowers. Man or woman, bring it. If that's unconventional for you, don't wait for the birthday or things like that. Make sure and say, hey, honey, I'm going to make dinner tonight. Could be the man or woman, like I say. You can go and do that. That's kind of unconventional for some people that expect to have it. Or they can bring it home. Say, don't make dinner, I got it. It's exciting. Going to a different place on vacation. Talking to a different person on the bus. Taking the stairs instead of riding the elevator. If you're able to. They're all things. Just to change it up. You feel a little bit differently. It's nice. there was a movie, Total Recall. It's not the Colin Farrell version, the Arnold Schwarzenegger version. When he goes to, in Total Recall, he goes to a company that places memories of a vacation in your head. So they say, hey, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to send you on a vacation. You're going to have memories of this great vacation, wherever it is. It could be in the tropics. You had to drink Mai Tais, blah, blah, blah. And you had a great time. And it costs less than the vacation. You had the vacation you could think about. You have these new memories. But they introduced this option. This guy said, instead of just going on a vacation, why don't you change who you are? What's the same thing about every vacation you go on? It's you. Change who you are. So Arnold Schwarzenegger picks a secret agent on a trip to Mars. And that's when the story pops in there. I'm not going to give you the whole thing of the story. Not because I don't want to tell you. It's because, you can always just look it up now. It's at your fingertips. You don't want sci-fi? That's a good thing. Go and watch this movie then. That's the variety. Watch something you normally wouldn't watch. If the wife says, I'd like to go and see Downton Abbey, take her to Downton Abbey. Sit and watch it. It may not be your cup of tea, pun intended, but you did something a little different. I went with my wife. I'm not saying I'm better than other people, but I think I went to a 50 Shades of Grey movie, which would not be it wouldn't be a choice of a movie I would go to. And I did one of the Sex and the City movies. Oh, man. I wish I didn't roll my eyes so often. I could just watch it. Just watch it. Just the only thing, I'm going to give it a shot. But you know what? After I saw one of those movies first, and it made me easier for me to watch one of the other movies. And people say, hey, Jim, you're kind of turning slightly... No, just doing a little variety. There's things, obviously, you don't have to go outside the norms to have variety. There's a lot of things that are conventional inside to do, but, do things that aren't expected. If you're not a guy to hold the door open for people, try to hold the door open for people. I'm going to try to be a better listener. That's a variety thing. I stopped talking. I apologize when I started interrupting. I interrupt people a lot. I'm always waiting for my time to talk. That's something I can work on. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap this up. I'll talk to you later. I hope we're able to resolve our mess. I'm trying to move all my episodes from Spreaker to this, what's it called? Anchor. You won't have to change. I don't think you will have to change where you listen to new episodes, because you'll be able to get them. I think they'll still exist on Spreaker or not. I don't get a lot of listeners from Spreaker, so I'm really not worried about it. But Anchor is associated with Spotify, so it will be available on Spotify and iTunes, Apple. I think Amazon. It should be available on everything that it is on now. I hope it is. If not, I'll just have to resubmit it. Hopefully you'll find it. Thank you very much and have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow or Thursday. Bye.